समारम्भस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, warm welcome to everyone. Thank you again. Today we are going to memorize a verse from chapter 14.26. Very essential verse. Ma cha yaha avyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mang chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, full, unfailing in all circumstances. Now this is from where I took the theme for this verse, unfailing in all circumstances. At once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Reading it again. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Very systematic presentation of philosophy by Lord Krishna. We'll discuss that later. Let's go to our recitation slide. Mang chayo vyabhicarena Mang chayo vyabhicarena Mang chayo vyabhicarena Bhakti yogena sevate Bhakti yogena sevate Bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samatityaitan Sagunan samatityaitan Sagunan samatityaitan Brahma bhuyaya kalpate Brahma bhuyaya kalpate Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mang chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate Mang chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate Mang chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samatityaitan Brahma bhuyaya kalpate Sagunan samatityaitan Brahma bhuyaya kalpate Sagunan samatityaitan Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mang chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mam cha yovyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mam cha yovyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mam, of course, I know you know the meaning of word Mam. Krishna is saying unto me. Cha, also, Yaha, one who, vyabhicharena, it's not vyabhicharena, it is avyabhicharena, means without fail, without deviation, without distraction. There can be many meanings. Without dilution, without uh, impurity. Bhakti yogena. Bhakti yogena means by devotional service. Sevate, one who serves me by bhakti. That person, sa means that person, he. Gunana samatityeta. The three modes of material nature, this chapter is about the three modes of material nature. So that person rises above. Samatityeta. Samatit means completely, goes beyond all these three modes of material nature. And the stage that person comes to is called Brahman realization. Aham Brahmasmi. To that stage one comes. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Basically, one understands I am not this body, I am spirit soul. Understanding it means not just theoretically that person understands, but that person also practically realizes that I am not the body, I am spirit soul, I am Atma, Satchit Ananda Sarup. So that realization comes if a person engages in devotional service. Which one? Without fail, unfailing in all circumstances. So let's do our exercise now. Mang cha yo, mang cha yo, what is the word there? Gita Communication Mataji.
Avyabhicarena.
Vyabhicarena. Thank you. Arati Mataji next.
Bhakti yogena sevate.
Very nice. Next. Anju Mataji.
Gunana samatityetan.
Sagunan samatityetan. Last. Dash bhuyaya kalpate. Vinodini Mataji. Vinodini. Yeah.
Brahma Bhuyaya.
Brahma Bhuyaya. Okay, next one. Paramkanti Mataji.
Mam chayo vyabhicarena.
Mam chayo vyabhicarena. Anju Mataji.
Bhakti yogena sevate.
Okay, thank you. Next, Gita Communication Mataji.
Sagunan samatityaitan.
Last, Vinodini Mataji.
Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate.
Very good. So now you can try the entire shloka. Yes, Anju Mataji.
Hare Krishna Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Dandavat.
Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunana samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Thank you. Gita Communication Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. Mam chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Very good. Next, Adisat.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. After a long time, we are hearing your voice.
Yes, I was there last time, but I because I couldn't pronounce those Sanskrit words, so I just kept quiet, Prabhu.
No problem.
But this one I know.
Okay.
Mam cha yo abhabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samutittoitan brahma bhuyayo kalpate.
Thank you. Govind Madhav.
Mam chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati tektan brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Nice. Vinodini Mataji.
Mam chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Good. Next, Harati Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dhanavad.
Mam chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samati tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Very good. Okay, so if no one else wants to try, let's go to the next slide. Please try to fill in these blanks also. Geet Kame Mataji.
One who engages in full devotional service.
Okay. Full devotional service. Dash in all circumstances. Anju Mataji.
Unfailing in all circumstances.
At once, dash the modes of material nature. At once, what does that person do? Paramkanti Mataji.
At once transcends the modes of material nature.
Very good. And last one, and thus comes to the level of Arati Mataji.
Brahman.
Thus comes to the level of Brahman. Very good. Okay. So we are done with this. Now let's go to the lesson. Now this verse has a lot to teach. Unfailing always in practicing devotional service. Few days back, I was teaching Bhakti Shastri students in Hindi language this verse. So I tried to explain to them how can we actually take practical lessons from it in a way that for us also it becomes possible that we can also engage in bhakti always, regardless of in what situation we are, in which ashram we are, in which kind of body we are, and what kind of work we engage in throughout the day. So when it is said one should be engaging in bhakti 24 hours a day, that means unfailing in all circumstances. Unfailing in all circumstances basically means that we do bhakti always, throughout the day. 24 hours of my life, they are meant for bhakti. Now, this doesn't mean that 24 hours a day, I have to come to that level right away that I'm chanting the holy names. Or 24 hours a day, I'm speaking Krishna Katha or hearing Krishna Katha. Or 24 hours a day, I'm fully able to remember Krishna. That's a long, long way to go, right? That's a very elevated platform. But to come to that level of Krishna consciousness, we need to practice. We need to begin somewhere, wherever we are. So what we can do is, Srila Prabhupada has very beautifully designed the practice system of devotional service in ISKCON. He has given us opportunities and areas of services with full of varieties. So we should, first of all, try to understand the science of bhakti. What does bhakti mean? Some people have a very narrow understanding of what bhakti is and what bhakti is not. To some people, bhakti means you should just chant. Then that's bhakti. If you do something else, it's not bhakti. To some people, you should live in the temple, then only bhakti is possible. For some people, you should be a full-time grihastha in ISKCON, then bhakti is possible. For some people, you should be distributing books, making temples, or something like that. So people have their own limited way of looking at what bhakti is. But we should know bhakti has a very big area, very big area. Bhakti can be executed by people in different ways, even externally. So what we should do is, we should first understand what bhakti is, and then whatever we do, any activity it may be, we should try to connect it to Krishna. It is possible to do so. If we are not able to physically connect with devotional service in situation, we should try to connect mentally. Physically is the best, but if not, then mentally. If not, the vocally. So in one way or other, using our body, using our mind, using our intelligence, using our speech, sometime or other we should be connected to Krishna. If you do that, unfailing in all circumstances. Sometimes, another like example I would like to give. Sometimes situationally, we are not able to execute a particular kind of devotional service. To make it simpler, let me explain. Like I was explaining few days back to one devotee. One lady, she wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada that I am now a mother. I just gave birth to a child and I can no longer go out in distribution of books. I cannot do that. I cannot go to the temple and do my pujari seva, worship the deities. So I feel I'm not engaging in devotional service anymore and I'm not able to do anything for your pleasure. So then Srila Prabhupada wrote back to her. He said, that little child has come to you. That little child has been sent to you by Krishna. That little child has been sent to you by your spiritual master. So considering that as a gift of Krishna, if you serve that child, take good care of that child, then even that is devotional service. Your attitude should be that, no, this is not my child, this is Krishna's property and Krishna has placed this child in my care. So if I take care of this child with that understanding, then what I am doing is also a devotional service. It's an act of devotional service. Because bhakti is not just about the content, it's also about the intent, more about the intent than the content. Why am I doing it? Like for anyone in this world, it would be difficult to imagine that fighting on a battlefield and killing people, chopping off their heads or piercing their body with sharp arrows, that would be an act of devotion. I mean, even in the wildest of dreams, people would not be able to imagine that such an act can also be considered as devotional service. But Krishna is telling Arjuna, Arjuna, if you do that for me, it's devotional service. You are doing it for my pleasure. You are doing it in connection to me. So when we understand this science, that anything, if it's connected to Krishna, and of course it should be allowed by the scriptures, then it's an act of devotional service. So no one can say, because of a particular situation or circumstance in my life, I'm not able to practice bhakti, because bhakti is not dependent on situation. Any situation can be used to engage in some kind of devotional service. Maybe we'll not be able to engage in that kind of devotional service which we want to do, but we can engage in some other kind of devotional service. And for that we need to broaden our understanding of what bhakti is not. When we have a very limited understanding that only this is bhakti, then in situations where we cannot execute that limb of devotional service, we feel now lost, that I cannot do bhakti now because I wanted to do that kind of activity and this situation won't allow me to engage in that kind of activity. Like that lady, she thought, for me, bhakti is going out distributing books of Srila Prabhupada, going to the temple and doing pujari seva. But now I have this small baby. I need to take care of him, bathe him, feed him. And most of my time goes in that. So how is this bhakti? But then Prabhupada gives her the proper understanding that this is also bhakti if done in the proper way. So if we understand this science, then we can also start practicing devotional service 24 hours a day, unfailing in all circumstances. It will become possible. And if it becomes possible for us like that, then gradually we'll also be able to rise above the three modes of material nature and become self-realized soul. So self-realization, the process of self-realization and the goal of self-realization is available for everyone. If they understand the science, they're eager for it, and they put right efforts, then the door will open for each one of us to come to that goal. So that's very beautifully explained here by Krishna. Mam cha vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate sagunana samatityaitana brahma bhuyaya kalpate. I'll end here. Thank you very much. Any question or comment? If
Thank you,
not,
Prabhu. Wonderful. It was so nice to know
thank
that
you.
the example that you gave was excellent, Prabhu. That with a baby, the mother wrote a letter to the Srila Prabhupada that clarifies so many doubts. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Yes. All right. So, all glories to Srila Prabhupada for giving us such wonderful knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
See you
Dandavad.
on